Thank you, everyone, for coming today. I'm Jake Adelstein, writer for the Daily Beast, executive producer on Tokyo Vice, and contributor to Unseen Japan. I'm delighted that everyone could make time to come here today. Mr. Yoshida-san, who's representing Mr. Christopher, will be talking about the recent High Court decision to overturn the amazing original affirmation of his right to be recognized as a refugee in Japan. Just a few quick words about Japan's refugee system. In 2021, Kamikawa, the Minister of Justice, said that the Japanese, system for recognizing refugees was one that was gathering the attention of the entire world and great respect, and they were hoping for more cooperation with other countries, which solicited laughs from many people because Japan has a record of about the most they've ever taken is 74 people in 1 year. In the same year, they rejected about 10,000 people. That was recently, and probably because most of those people that they did accept were Ukrainian refugees. It averages between about 40 to 14 people a year. Japan's record for accepting refugees is abysmal. And after you hear Mr. Christopher's story, you'll begin to understand why it is such an impossible task to come to Japan and be recognized as a refugee. I will now turn the table over to lawyer Yoshida.
Thanks, Jake. Hi, my name is Koichiro Yoshida. I'm a Japanese qualified lawyer. I'm from the Tokyo Marunouchi law offices. Today, I'd like to explain what happened to my friend, Fonfon Christopher. We met about 5 years ago, and I started helping him. The thing is, Fonfon Christopher, Chris, he came to Japan about 10 years ago. Then he was fleeing from Cameroon. He was a member of this political party in Cameroon, and his family and his friends were the victims of the Cameroon government. However, when he arrived in Japan, he applied for the status of refugees. After 5 years, his application was rejected. Therefore, what we had to do was to just go to the court. And after 5 years of fighting in the Tokyo District Court, last year, we got a judgment which upheld it, and the judges actually found that Fonfon Christopher, he's a refugee under the Refugee Convention. However, last week, the Tokyo High Court quashed this judgment made by the Tokyo District Court, and they rejected our claim. And now it's over again. However, we are appealing to the Supreme Court to overturn this decision again. Let me just introduce the judgment made by the Tokyo District Court. We had this Cameroon lawyer who helped us to collect and gain documents we have to submit to the court. For your information, in Japan, imagine you need to run away from a country. Okay, all you have is a passport, and you come to Japan all the way from country because that was the only country you had. It's not like he chose. It's not like he wanted to come to Japan. Then one day you apply for this status of refugees. Then all you have to do there is they sit down, all right, judges, talk to immigration people. Then they ask him, okay, it's now your turn. Prove you are a refugee. All right. He doesn't have anything. He didn't have anything, seriously. He didn't have money. He didn't have nothing. All he had was his passport. Okay. But after 5 years at the Tokyo District Court, we managed to gather lots of evidence through these Cameroon lawyers. We had two Cameroon lawyers who helped us through. We managed to submit 2 copies of arrest warrants and one newspaper article. And we also managed to get more documents and testimony from the publishers or other lawyers. Last year, we invited this Cameroon lawyer, and he testified in front of Tokyo District Court judges. Then the Tokyo District Court judges found, okay, this Cameroon lawyer, what he's saying is reliable. Therefore, and all these documents we submitted, for example, newspaper article, arrest warrants, these are reliable. So now, therefore, Fonfon Christopher's story is also reliable. Okay, now they found him. He's a refugee. He's a refugee under the Refugee Convention. That was a great judgment. That's how you meant. However, last week, surprisingly, Tokyo High Court, without pointing out issues of arrest warrant, maybe you have these copies now. There are 2 copies. These are the arrest warrants we submitted to court. The Tokyo High Court pointed out there are spelling mistakes, and there's a crime called violation of the flag. And this violation of the flag, it's not a crime under the Cameroon Penal Code. Therefore, these are clear mistakes. We cannot trust these arrest warrants. Cameroon lawyers who got these arrest warrants, same story. We cannot trust him. These are fake. We cannot trust his story. We cannot trust Fonfon Christopher's story. We could not prove, if you come to Japan, if you apply for status for refugees, you must prove that you are refugees. And we did everything. What else can we do now? And however, now the lawyers in Cameroon, they are fighting. They are getting together they are ready to go to the Supreme Court with us. They are trying to prove these arrest warrants issued against Fonfon Christophers are true and genuine. That's what we are trying to do. That's what we are going to do. Thank you.
I'm going to turn over the floor to Mr. Christopher, who would like to make a statement. But let me ask one question.
Sure.
Did the High Court make any attempt to talk to the Cameroon government, the embassy officials there, or did they just simply look at the evidence that had already been presented?
No one related to Cameroon government, no lawyers of Cameroon have actually said these are fake. Only judges, in their head, they maybe imagined these are fake. So there was no actual, evidence to prove this is fake. There was no evidence submitted by the Japanese government.
And you're saying the Japanese government didn't, or the High Court didn't make an attempt to verify. They just went with their gut feeling.
No, because this is what I was saying to the Japanese government from the beginning of this law case about 5 years ago. If you think this is fake, why don't you just contact the Cameroon government or group lawyers from Cameroon? Why don't you just verify it? But they never. This was the story.
Mr. Christopher.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Fonfon Christopher, born on the 25th of March, 1963 in Bamenda, the region which is the part of Cameroon being given by the UN to be administered by Britain. I will not go into details about the history because it's quite long. And so I worked in Cameroon as a trade union president. And besides, I was also an activist in the SCNC, which we are really fighting to get out of Cameroon because it was a union which we did not deem necessary. Because the UN also knows, the United Nations know that this was something that was attributed as such with no binding rules. So now we are fighting from NCNC and all the other bodies. We fight. And what the Cameroon government does is, in order to maintain their grip on this territory, what they do is they try to incarcerate us, they try to kill us and do us and catch us and really treat us, put us in mass graves, and they don't want people to actually understand what is going on. And now, in my own turn, it was serious because I was attacked and everything, so I had to fly, I had to run out of Cameroon, because if I did not run, because one of my colleagues even died. If I did not run, I should have been a dead person now. So thank God I ran and came to Japan, which they took me from the first time. But finally, when I gave my documents, and which I had no documents when I came, and when I finally applied for refugee, they asked me for documents. With the help of Mr. Yoshida, I contacted the lawyer in Cameroon, and finally they amalgamated all the documents and sent. And when they sent these documents, they said, it is now that the district court had testified that my case was true, and they said we won the case. So it was in 17th of May 2000 and last year. Okay, so they said we won the case, but the government still went and took an appeal against the case. Okay, when constantly saying that there was an error on a card. When the lawyers in Cameroon produced evidence that it wasn't an error, finally, the government said they have data from Cameroon, which they cannot transmit it because they are still waiting for procedures. I begin to wonder on one point. If they said they had data from Cameroon, from my statement about we trying to secede from Cameroon, I don't think they can go and get solid data concerning me that the government will give them data concerning me which is authentic. To my knowledge, if they wanted authentic documents concerning my actions, they should go to my region of activity, which was Bamenda, the northwest, where we are struggling to secede. They didn't do that. They got data from first sources, which I don't understand, and they say that they were not valid. Now, and what they say about the errors on this paper, on the arrest warrant and all this thing, we had proved all these things at the district court. We told the district court the nature of work in Cameroon, how the Cameroonian people do job. That is, they don't take consideration. Everything is centralized and done in French language. And when they do it in French language, they then pass it to people in the English-speaking zone, in the speaking zone, and all these are charged with horrible errors. Even in the case of a birth certificate, death certificate, and even hospital data, we showed them in the district court, and they also saw how difficult it is. And finally, they accepted us. Then now, it came to the High Court. They said that this document is not valid, whereas this is done by people who don't have the law degree, because in Cameroon, they are employed on who knows who.
So what you're saying is that in Cameroon the paperwork is sloppy. It's not perfect like in the Japanese system, and apparently this knuckleheaded judge, these are my words, is too dumb to realize that not everything is run like Japan. But since there were errors, he was like, it must be invalid, right? That's essentially what they decided.
Exactly. But it is beating my knowledge that after all these things have been proven at the district court and showed clearly, I doubt why in the High Court they will not even go specifically to see what the district court had done to testify these documents. They just said it is violation, or they just said they are fake. They just pronounced that the judgment, that we lost the judgment without any criteria. It is actually, I am confused how they act, because finally they don't know the system of how things are done. They did not want to know the system, because if they hadn't wanted to know, they could have discovered what is actually wrong and not to make it said I've lost. So I feel either they did it intentionally or really discriminatorily. I don't understand.
Thank you very much. We'd love to take questions because we have plenty of time to take them. So all that I ask is, if you do make your question, please identify yourself and whether you're a journalist and what publication you're writing for, or do write for when you come to the mic. Questions? Anyone?
Nishimura, free journalist. Thank you very much for today. As far as I'm hearing your story. I think the point should be whether you are you're registered as a refugee, and the situation in your home country is very important, I think. So, how many family you have left in your hometown in Cameroon, and your relatives, and how they are, what kind of situation they are? Is that in jeopardy or not? Thank you very much.
Yeah. My family is, till today, they are still in hiding because they cannot show up. My family, my immediate family, that is my siblings. Not really my siblings, that is immediate family, my wife and children, they are still in hiding because they cannot show up because they are afraid. And with this particular action of the Japanese government going to find data from Cameroon, it is actually keeping my family now at jeopardy. I don't even understand where they can fly to now. It is really very dangerous. So I don't understand what is actually going on. So I'm really weeping because their situation is critical. Did I answer your question? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. David Slater from Sophia University. There's so many questions to try to figure out why this is happening. But one question is the movement from the district court to the high court. During the trial of the high court, did the immigration officers introduce new evidence that might have justified overturning the verdict of the district court? Or did they only look at the document and say, this doesn't feel right? Did they introduce any evidence at all that would allow them to justify their feeling about the arrest warrant and the newspaper?
I'll have Yoshida-san, could you answer that first, please?
Basically, they repeated the same issues, like what they did at the district court and the high court. However, this time, the Japanese government produced pictures of newspapers. Okay, because we submitted newspaper articles, and newspaper talked about him running away from Cameroon and arrest warrants being issued. Okay, however, the Japanese government then submitted pictures, not original copies, but pictures of newspaper, okay, which was, according to them, obtained from this publisher who we have been working together all this time through Cameroon lawyers. And we had meetings many times, but the High Court upheld that the pictures of newspaper submitted by the government is genuine.
And the sad thing about this document is they didn't prove the genuinity of this newspaper. Why? When we submitted our own document, the court asked us to authentify, to make it authentic. That is why we went. The newspaper publisher signed a document and sent to the court. The publisher signed a document and sent to the court, and even the journalist who did the investigation signed and sent it to the court, and to show that this document was authentic. Finally, when it came to the High Court, they brought a photocopy with the logo not the same as that of the newspaper, but to my surprise, the court accepted it as genuine.
Sorry, I'm going to interject here a second. The newspaper article photocopy that supposedly the Japanese government obtained, and it's unclear where they obtained it from, is it different from what you submitted?
It's very different. I mean, the font size and the headings, the logo of the publisher was just different.
So it's not the same newspaper. Is it essentially a fake article?
It's totally different, basically, yes.
But it's supposed to be the same newspaper, but it's
Publisher.
a forgery, is what you're
Yeah,
suggesting.
two different newspaper, basically, yes. Issued on the same date. So it's like, we couldn't say anything, and they just submitted the pictures of those newspapers, taking photos. And the government didn't explain how they have obtained it.
Can I add something? Sure. And what is, again, if the other court could go to that length of making us authentify that newspaper, why did the High Court not go to the same depth to make the publisher, whom they claim, that gave the newspaper? Why did the court not go to that extent to ask the publisher to write a letter that they sent the newspaper? Why did the court not even go to the newspaper agency to show that, to let us see? But it simply said it was correct. How can, no, in fact, something, I see that there is some bias action here.
Other questions? Peter? Don't forget to identify yourself and who you have written for or are currently writing for.
My name's Peter Morris. I'm a lawyer, but I also write for Asia Times, mostly about Myanmar, so I have written about refugee issues a little bit. I'm just wondering what were the grounds on which the court found that the documents were not authentic or were fraudulent? Did they give a rationale?
Mainly spelling mistakes.
Oh, okay. And did you
Do
guys
know,
have a chance to...
Looks like we have submitted many documents, about 50 copies.
Yeah.
And we have obtained, but they do, to me, maybe they just ignore them. There is no value because what we submit, because they had this idea. Maybe people from Cameroon, maybe, court didn't say it, but they just submit or they prepare fake copies. When we called this, invited this Cameroon lawyer, the court actually asked us, so it is really him, in the courtroom. That was quite rude, but I didn't say it. But, I hope Japanese court or Japanese people are not that just, they don't judge people by color. That's what I was feeling during this court case.
Mm-hmm. Could you elaborate? You mean, is this really him? What context was that said?
I mean, the Cameroon lawyer, it's really him. That's what he said. Because we submitted everything, like his qualification as a lawyer or on the passport, we submitted original copy, but still, the Japanese government doesn't trust this guy is a real qualified lawyer. Mm-hmm. I think that was the idea of High Court, I guess.
I mean, I'm not sure how the civil procedure works here in Japan, but do you have a chance to sort of object to the judge's ruling on the evidence?
that
Whether it's authentic, I mean, yeah.
no, there is no like proceedings to that. It's like only the judgment. Then you realize what the judges are thinking. But this case is a refugee case. But the court maybe thinks this is a real, like normal civil cases. Okay. Burden on proof is on him, but it's just so high, and I just feel after this high court judgment, just so impossible to prove that he's a refugee. This is what's happening in Cameroon, not in Japan, but we still we are expected to produce all these documents to prove he's a refugee. That is really, really impossible. He's a member of this political party, SNC. That is recognized in the world, maybe apart from Japan. Or maybe the judge don't think killings going on in Cameroon.
They didn't know. Can I add? You ask, please, can I?
Sure, of course.
You asked the question, what was, why these documents were rejected, something of that sort, if I heard it well.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we said it was spellings. Mm-hmm. Then I begin to wonder again. I'm wondering because these documents were not done by me. These documents were done by the people, by the legal, not legal, but really the people in Cameroon. Why now? Will I be penalized for the errors of somebody who did? How can they say this document now is not a serious document by penalizing me without really checking to see why they call it fraud? I did not do this document. I think it is reasonable that they should understand that me not doing this document, I should not be penalized for somebody's error.
Well, yeah, I mean, it sounds like, or it seems like, they've definitely demonstrated that, the Cameroon government does sloppy paperwork, in everything. There are misspellings. I mean, there are misspellings in, actually, I've seen Japanese government documents have had misspellings in wrong kanji. It happens. If that's the qualification for validating a document, then we're all in a lot of trouble. Next question. Did you want to ask a question? Okay.
Maybe I can ask him one question, because this has been asked at the press conference. They say, if you know the status of situations surrounding refugee applicants in Japan, like success rate is so low, why did you come to Japan? Why did you choose to come to Japan? Maybe you can explain.
Yeah, I told, and I will still continue, if I had the opportunity to go some other place, I could have gone. I could not have chosen Japan. That was the only occasion that came to me while I was on the run. So I could not have gone to another place. And really, really, from the bottom of my heart, if I knew that I was coming to Japan to be in hell like this, I could have remained in my country and died.
Any more questions? If not, I'm going to ask a question, and we may actually adjourn a meeting early. Oh, sure, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just got out of the hospital where my name was spelled one way, different from my passport. My alien registration for 15 years had my name spelled differently from where my passport is. And this is all in Japanese, all in Japan. Right? Both katakana and romaji mistakes have been made all the time. The idea that this would be grounds for suspecting a document is ridiculous, I think. I want to follow up on the last person's question just for a moment. When you submitted during the at the High Court, when you submitted these documents, were they challenged when you submitted them, or were they only challenged after the trial was over and then the judge deemed them invalid? Was there ever a chance where they challenged you
Do you mean
and
by the
gave you
Japanese
a chance?
government?
By
Yes, they always challenge. These are all the documents we submitted. They said they claim, oh, there's a spelling mistake, and there is no like writing about what he committed. There's nothing. So it's like, how can I explain? This arrest warrant is issued against him, and it's just like, to me, it's like they just challenge not only these arrest warrants, but basically all the documents that we submitted. But this High Court was more really strict, and they were so, how do I say, they really expect us to prove these are real. But to me, it's like, I really wonder, like, what else can we do? It's like, if we are going to appeal to the Supreme Court, and if we are allowed to again go and submit more documents or chance to prove that he's a refugee, we are ready to invite like 20, 30 lawyers from Cameroon, and we are going to invite this publisher of the newspaper article. But maybe they don't still believe him. But the burden proof on him is just so high. And please, he's not, if you are rejected, your application, refugee application is rejected, you are not allowed to work. He's not been working for 5 years.
6 years.
6 years. And he just, he don't want to tell me, but this guy, he was really living on the street, sleeping. He don't have any resources. But still, the court expects us to prove everything. And to me, it's just impossible and just too much. And it's not what the courts of Japan should be doing. In Japan, this is a country who has signed Refugee Convention. I just strongly believe this is a clear violation. I just want to always go back. I didn't sign the Refugee Convention. It's the Japanese government. But still, there is no system to help these people. They don't have anything. They just have a passport. They just grab a passport, run away to Japan. And they expect you to prove everything. And I'm sure the Japanese government have copies of these arrest warrants, from Cameroon. They can just check easily if it's false. I mean, if it's fake, yes. But yeah, just I wanted to tell.
Thank you.
I have a question. Could the Ministry of Justice ask the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to go confirm this with the Cameroon government? I mean, is that possible or is that impossible?
We had discussion with the Cameroon lawyers. Maybe they can, there's a way, but we just had this conversation with the Cameroon lawyers. If Japanese government asks, can you tell to the Cameroon government, the question whether these arrest warrants have been issued? Maybe the answer is no. It's like, we thought that.
Because he is an enemy of the government, right?
Exactly. Because the government, excuse me, let me continue. The government wants me dead. You go and ask the government, is this document genuine? What you as a person, as the government, what will you say? You quickly say, deport him. Let us deal with him. And again, I will feel that if they go directly to the government as they said they did, was actually violating on my own rights as a human being.
Yeah. We're always thinking if there's any way we can prove, these arrest warrants are genuine. But we try hard still.
In other countries, is the burden of proof so high It seems to me that, I mean, I'm an amateur, but reading the International Convention, it should be that unless there is an absolute certainty that this person is not a refugee, with any reasonable amount of expectation this person is a refugee, that you're supposed to grant them refugee status.
That's the way it is, I think, in other countries, apart from Japan. My sister is a lawyer in New York, and she helps refugee applicants as well. And she just always tells me, like, if you can just prove you belong to this political party in the country, and if that is just enough, and you are just granted the status of refugee like that. And I explained what happened in the High Court. Of course, she was so furious and disappointed of what the Japanese court.
When is your deadline for filing with the Supreme Court?
We should make appeal, just file appeal next week. Now after that, we have more time to submit more documents, but we try to collect more and more proof to show that he's a refugee. But
do you have time to stay? Like we're closing. We have this till 4 to stay and to meet people individually.
Sure.
Are there any other questions? Okay.
Mr. Yoshida, I just want to get your opinion on the new refugee law that was passed last year. So the news media, a lot of people voice criticism of it. Okay, among let's say foreigners in Japan and outside of Japan, a lot of people criticize it. But then I talked to a couple of people who are actually refugee advocates, Japanese people who are refugee advocates here in Japan, and they support it. And I asked one of the guys who's a lawyer, and he said, the reason it was good is because it's sort of like in Japan, you have to move slowly. So that's why he thinks it's a good first step, and perhaps I think he was indicating like it's the only thing they could have done, the best they could have done. So what do you think about that?
Is it that new law about that you can only make application like certain times?
Yeah, well, I think it was the only major law that was passed.
Yeah, that was time. Right? Yeah, that time it was really the big news, but now everywhere it's quiet. However, please note, Tokyo immigration he goes to, right? He made application twice. Look, usually refugee applicants, they do not have anything. They don't have resources, they don't have money, they don't have access to lawyers. What do you expect them to do? It's like, maybe he was lucky enough that he met me when we started this case. But usually, these people do not have, they have nothing. So, and my opinion about refugee, the law reform is just, I just want Japanese people to get more interest, like, about what's really happening, apart from outside the world. Just to look what's happening. And the reason we came here is like, if we keep quiet, nothing will change. So maybe answer to your question is like, we are trying to make change again with the fighting.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming here today. I'm going to end this, but they will stay here for the next 20 minutes, and anyone who would like to talk to them, please do. I believe that George Baumgartner has an appointment at 4 p.m. with Mr. Johnson. So thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for coming here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're adjourning the meeting.